the deepest bowels of your imagination.
Actually, he's from Canada there, bud.
From the famed Hodder Show studios, this is The Hodder Show.
What is up, everybody? We're rolling out of you here today on episode 96 of The Hodder Show. What's going on? Virtual fist bump. Yeah, virtual fist bump. I hope you're doing absolutely fan-freaking-tastic. Thank you so much for tuning in and clicking that play button on today's episode of the podcast of The Hodder Show, your cure for boredom and the thing that you do while doing other stuff. Whether you're gaming or you're driving to work or you're sitting around sipping on a nice adult beverage or whatever you're doing. You're working. Make sure you're working hard. You got to make sure you work hard. But if you listen to this podcast, regardless of how you're listening, thank you so much. You are awesome for tuning in today. I have a very different podcast for you today, actually, guys. I'm always trying new stuff. If there's one thing that can be said about TJ Hodder and The Hodder Show is that I always try to do different things. Whether it's trying more Skype conversations, whether it's talking about topics that I'm not necessarily comfortable in or that kind of thing. I always try to do different stuff. And today is a very different conversation. Most of you people who know me know that I am not much of a traveler. I don't like traveling. I don't like the hustle and bustle of the airports. And I like point A and point B, but I don't like getting there. So I've wanted to do a podcast talking about like traveling and that kind of thing, and because I feel like it's a topic that a lot of people like and enjoy hearing about, people's travels and that kind of thing. And my travels are kind of boring. Like I don't really have any cool stories. So I was like, I want to have someone on the podcast who has some cool travel stories. And I was like, I don't know who that could be. And one day I'm at work and I'm just on break with a friend of mine who I work with, and it hit me. I was like, man, he's talking about his travels to Central America and stuff, and I'm like, yo, this is a friend of mine, is a good dude, and he has all these cool stories of traveling to Guatemala and traveling to all these other places and like climbing a volcano and stuff. And I'm like, yo, this is sweet. Like, so I said, hey buddy, you want to come over and do the podcast? And it was pretty great. He's never done anything like this before. He's not even like a YouTuber or a streamer or anything. He's just, he's a nice dude. He has a lot of cool stories. His name was Brandon, and he's a guy I work with, and he's a buddy of mine. And it was a great podcast. I really enjoyed it. For me, recording that hour with him, it just flew by. Just because I was so fascinated about what he was talking about. And it's a really, really good conversation. I really hope you guys enjoy it. If you are a fan of traveling or there's some places you want to go in, kind of like that Central America. I can't remember where else he went. But he went to a lot of cool places. Costa Rica, Guatemala. Some really cool places. And he has some really cool stories about he went to Bangkok and everything as well, which was kind of cool. And he has some really cool, fun stories about getting lost with traveling and snorkeling and getting sunburnt. And the climbing of the volcano was a pretty good story. Being in the middle of the jungle and not getting not getting a malaria shot, so he had to wake up every like half hour and bug spray all over himself and all in his room, so he didn't get stung by he didn't get a mosquito bite and get malaria or something. It's just good. It's a great conversation. Brandon's a great guy, and it was a lot of fun. So I really hope you guys enjoy it. It's definitely very different. It's not wrestling related or anything, of course. Done a lot of wrestling lately. And it's just been what's been on the topic. And unfortunately, as some of you guys may have noticed, Thursday, of course, there was no podcast due to some audio errors. Basically, tell you guys what happened real quick. My good buddies, two nerds, Sam and Jordan, we did a Skype conversation talking about the Royal Rumble, which was awesome. It was an amazing conversation. It was great. The two of them were on and they were engaging, and it was great. They need their own podcast, but anyway. And I recorded mine, or they recorded theirs. There was some issues on their end with the audio, and we weren't able to use it. It happened. It's nobody's fault or anything. The backup audio I record when I do my Skype calls actually also had multiple errors and skips, and it was a bad recording session. So unfortunately, I was not able to use it. Those guys deserve a full, good quality podcast because they're good enough and they're funny enough and engaging enough and everything that I didn't want to put it up and it not be up to the quality that we've been basically keeping. And all the work that the producer Brandon Vis and the Kevin Nunn of the Hodder Show puts into this show, I did not want to put up a podcast that was not up to that quality. So I made the very difficult decision to not put it up, which sucks. It was a great conversation. Jordan and Sam, if you're listening, I am so sorry again for that. I feel terrible that happened. I'm sorry for wasting your time. But definitely I'm going to have those guys on for sure because I had a lot of fun talking with them and they were natural at it. So, I mean, it's just great. Be sure to check them out on their stream, Two Nerds Play, on Twitch and also on YouTube. Search Two Nerds Play, or just Red Hudson 8 on either as well. Two great dudes. So if anyone was looking forward to the Royal Rumble review, I apologize, but couldn't make it happen here, folks. So this is why I need my own studio, and I need Brendan and I need a crew of interns. The only thing I want to talk about is that Monday I will be making the group for the 100th episode of the Hodder Show, which is coming up very quickly. I hope to see as many people out for it as I can. I'm going to do what I always do on the live cast, excuse me. It's going to be mainly a Q&A, so be sure to bring lots of questions about anything. I'm going to talk about the podcast, of course, as I always do. Have some banter in the chat. Hopefully the producer will be able to be on hand as well. I'm sure we'll have some banter back and forth. I also have a very big announcement that I am so excited for, guys. I've been sitting on this information for a little while now, and I'm very excited to share it with you. It's cool. It's a cool thing. It's something I've been working on with the help of the producer Brandon Vis and Kevin Nunn of the Hodder Show, and as well as actually Mr. Jason Reese. So I'm very excited about that. And I also may or may not be doing a giveaway. We'll see if there's enough people on the live cast. I'll probably do a giveaway. So I hope to see all of y'all there. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. And I have some kind of cool little things the week of the 100th episode 99. It's probably going to be a look back episode, if you will, because there's some stuff we've been working on, and I'm very excited to share it with you guys because it's going to be a lot of fun. So be sure to keep your eye out for that. Monday, I'm going to be making that group up. If you ask why I didn't just make it today, I'm weird like that. I like to do things at the start of weeks or end of weeks or whatever. I don't know. I'm OCD like that. But be sure to keep an eye out for that. I will be sure to invite everybody that I possibly can to that group or the paid event page. Excuse me. Keep an eye out for that. It's just going to be search for the Hodder Show 100th episode live cast. It'll pop right up. Very excited about that, guys. But all of that stuff out of the way, I had a lot of housekeeping today. Ooh, holy crap. We are going to roll into this podcast with my boy, Mr. Brandon Vis, and we're going to hear all about his adventures while traveling the world. Let's get into it. All right, so we're sitting at the kitchen table in the kitchen, ladies and gentlemen, of Hodder Show Studios, aka my basement apartment. And I wanted to do something different for the podcast, and I've been thinking about talking about traveling now for quite a while. And I was like, I'm not much of a traveler, so I wanted to find somebody who had some experience traveling and who I could ask questions to and talk about maybe what's so good about traveling and kind of the fun parts of traveling and also the crappy parts of traveling. And through my work, I met a man who I've kind of struck up a friendship with, and we always BS. We always have a good time at work. He's kind of become like my best buddy at work, and that's Mr. Brandon Vis. And it just so happens that he also is a bit of a world traveler because he seems to always be going places. When I first came into work, he was actually getting ready to go on a month-long trip away, but we'll ask him all about that. But Brandon, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks. Good to be here.
Right on. It's going to be fun. I know that you've never done anything like this, so
no.
This is going to be interesting.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. So if there's any, like I said to you before, if I do anything weird and I'm like messing with knobs or anything, don't be alarmed. But we kind of, like I said, like we obviously met through work and that. And when I came into start working at Travel Plaza there, you were getting ready to head on a month-long journey. So I was kind of like, oh, like who's this guy who's just gonna F off for a month, you know? Where exactly were you going when I like was gonna?
Well, the first time I was going to Central America, and that was my biggest trip out of North America. I did a lot before in North America, but that was my first one there. So I did Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Costa Rica.
Cool. Have you always like just been a like even when you were a kid and that, like have you just did you do a lot of like vacations when you were a kid and stuff, and did you travel a lot or?
Oh yeah, parents when we were little just pack up the tent drill, pack up the tents, jump us in the vehicle. We're going out west for a month, and we just drive, pack up the things, stop at campsite for the night, pack up, like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning, pack everything down. Every single day.
Every single day. So you obviously you kind of got accustomed and attached to traveling and camping and that kind of thing?
Oh yeah. Good at roughing it and everything.
Good at roughing it. Yeah. I was into camping and stuff when I was younger, but I was never a traveler.
No.
I mean, me personally, I absolutely cannot stand like going to the airport and going somewhere. Like I absolutely hate that. You know, so like what, like when you were a kid and so you guys were doing a lot of like camping and traveling around and that kind of thing, would you say that affected you in the sense of when you were a kid, like growing up, you were just like, hey, like I want to spend as much time as I possibly can in my adult life traveling, and there's all these places I want to go see?
Yeah, it's more like that. It's just like there's so much of the world to see, and you got some people that like live in Ontario and like, I haven't left like a 50-mile radius. I'm like, you haven't seen shit. There's nothing around.
Absolutely. Like I'm like, oh, you know, like I have no desire to go anywhere. Like I'll go to like Cape Breton in Nova Scotia, and I'm like, to me that's a trip. Whereas you're going like around the world.
Well, that's nice too.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love going to Cape Breton and Nova Scotia and that, and I want to see more of Canada. But
Canada's nice. I've been from coast to coast, so it's super beautiful.
Where's your favorite place in Canada to go, you'd say?
That's a tough call. Did spend a week in PI a few years ago, and then we did it with our entire family. We had like a nice beach, no one around for like miles. It's just beautiful, just red sand, everything just nice, calm, just island life is just beautiful.
The island life and the big PEI, the island life. What would you say, like, aside from obviously you get to see all these awesome places, and like obviously the scenery you've never seen before and that kind of thing, what's like to you, like aside from that, what would you say you love about like traveling so much other than obviously the obvious things?
Well, the food and the culture. The food's like my best thing. I'm a big foodie. I like trying new foods, like cooking new foods, and it's like I went to Central America and I did a homestay there. So you're living in someone's home for a day or two, and it's this one morning. It's just like you go in and it's like they give you like rice and beans, and you're like, rice and beans
for breakfast.
For breakfast.
Where was that when you had that?
That was in Nicaragua. So we were in a homestay in Nicaragua, and I'm like, that's the day I was gonna climb up a volcano, and it's like, okay, I need something nice and hearty and this and that, and they give you like rice and beans, and you're like, rice and beans, but you eat them. It's the best food ever because it's like they know how to cook it right, and
it's not like if like right now if I go on my cupboard and I make you rice and beans, it's not going to be the same.
It'll be like,
you'll be like, what the hell is this? And just throw it out.
No,
but
like I had cravings for those rice and beans when I came back. I'm
really?
Like, I want those rice and beans. I went to some other place too, like a restaurant. It's like a Caribbean restaurant. I'm like, oh, they have rice and beans. I'm gonna try rice and beans. And I'm like, this is not rice and beans. These aren't bad, but I'm like, I want rice and beans. And people are like, what's their secret? I'm like, it's probably lard, but I don't care.
It's probably lard. Yeah, like places like that. If I'm not mistaken, they do a lot of cooking in lard and that kind of stuff, don't they?
Oh yeah.
See, I wouldn't even know what to do with that. But the family you were staying with in Nicaragua.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I've even said that before in my life. But what was the family like? Like it
was like we came late because the ferry was like broken, so we came down and they have like leftovers for us for dinner, and there's like there's two kids and they're watching in Nicaragua, it's weird because you're thinking like the national sport is soccer, but it's not. It's baseball, and then it's boxing. And we had these two kids, and they had these little they were watching boxing, and they were like beating each other, fighting in front of us. You had like, it was like me and a buddy of mine, and they were like putting on a little show, and they're like,
Literally full on boxing each other.
yeah, and then the one guy, there's like two picked up, another guy grabbed gloves, and they're picking on the middle child. And then the kid fell down, and they're just like, body shot, body shot, body shot. It's like, you can't hear it, but it's what it sounded like. It's a different language. It's like...
He's probably sitting there saying body shot and whatever. What do they speak over there?
Spanish.
Spanish? That's what I figured.
I understand a little bit of Spanish, but it's just like... the culture's just so much different. You go to those places, and it's like culture shock. Like, you go to a restaurant, and... I did it the first time. I was by myself for a day before I came, and because I did it with the tour group. But I was there for a day, and they're just like, "Oh, there's a good cafe across." You go, and the entire menu's in Spanish. You don't know anything, and you're just like, "Okay, I know that word, and I know that word, and I know that word."
So you can kind of piece it together.
Because French and Spanish, especially with the written, is pretty similar, so you can sort of figure it out there. But it's just like this or that, and I literally looked at the menu, being like, "That's a juice. That's something. I'll take that." We'll risk it.
Well, just see what she see. Like, that's my thing. Is like, I don't know. Like, I can speak English barely.
Yeah.
And I can sometimes understand French a little bit, but I can't speak it. I can't read it. I don't understand any other languages. For some reason, I seem to be able to BS my way through Spanish sometimes. Like, if someone's asking me something in Spanish, I can kind of be like, toaster? Like, I was like...
No, I went to a Mr. Sub, and this is on my thing, because I had a layover in Panama, which is actually farther. You had to travel farther than back, because it's like...
That makes sense.
Oh, that's how airports work, because it's... you need it to be like a hub. So you travel like 4 hours, like 5 hours on a plane, and then you gotta travel 2 hours backwards after a 4-hour layover. And you're just like...
And we'll talk about planes stuff a little bit more, but...
But no, it's like Mr. Sub, and it's just like looking at the stuff, and I'm like, I know Polo's chicken, and I'm like, chicken, and I'm like, what? And I'm like, Polo. And some other English guy's like, Marco.
They don't understand. They're just like, okay, I think I know that. Well, that's like when we went to Montreal years ago. I like I said, I don't speak any French at all, and I'm there standing in like a pizza parlor, and I'm like, okay. The guy spoke absolutely no English, didn't read it, and wanted nothing to do with me, right?
Yeah.
But I was like, I've heard this is like the best pizza in Montreal.
Yeah.
So I'm standing there with a couple of my buddies, and they both speak perfect French. Well, at least enough. And so, of course, they order their stuff, and they're like, no, you're going to order on your own. I want to see you do this, right? So my ass walks up to the counter. He's just like, like whatever the hell he says.
Sure.
That sounds racist. But I have nothing against French people, folks. Some of my best friends are French. And I'm like, I wanted like a pepperoni and cheese pizza. That's all I wanted. I wanted this pepperoni and cheese slice, and I could see it. So I was like pointing at it. But I could tell he wanted to be a dick about it. Like, he was like, he wanted to hear me trying to attempt to say pepperoni and cheese pizza in French. Yeah. And I don't know do you know how to say pepperoni and cheese pizza in French? No?
Fromage. Fromage is cheese.
Fromage. So I was like, okay.
Oh, I don't know.
So this was me trying to order a pepperoni and cheese slice of pizza. I say, bonjour.
Yeah, like
this is gonna be
so messed up for sure.
Bonjour. Le pepperoni et fromage. And he just looks at me and he's like nothing. And I was so then of course I kept repeating it and repeating as it kept getting louder. I was like, pepperoni and cheese. You ever tried that when you're the tried and true American and Canadian way of speaking in a foreign country? Just start yelling really loud and everyone will immediately understand you. Like, I am Brandon from Canada. Oh, why didn't you say so? Like,
yeah, that doesn't work. They just be like, are you serious right now?
In their own language. So, but so like we're in Nicaragua and you're doing a staying with this family. Was it like did they speak any English or no?
None at all. Like you're trying to like figure them out and you're just trying to like you have no idea what they're saying.
But they were cool. Like,
they're cool. They do it all the time, and it's just more or less like they know like a few words and stuff like that. It's just like, it's like, what are you? It's like you have a drink and like, what are you drinking? And they're like, they point outside to lemon. I'm like, oh, lemonade, okay.
Cool, lemonade. I like lemonade. And they just whole thing of vodka or something. It's like, oh shit, they party over here in Nicaragua. There any like you any drinking or anything when you over there?
Oh yeah, a little.
Yeah,
I mean,
a little bit drinking.
It's so much cheaper. Like, and the rules are like Canada too. It's like we went to like one restaurant, and he's like, "Oh, we're gonna go to a restaurant. We're gonna hit the beer store before because, well, they don't serve alcohol at this restaurant." And I'm like, "Well, so we're gonna stop somewhere to have a drink, then do it?" And he's like, "No, you literally can pick up the beer, take it with you, drink it on the streets,
Are you
go to
serious?
the restaurant, sit in a restaurant that you didn't order the drink, and have a beer." And I'm like,
So you can. So right now, if we're walking down the street in Nicaragua, we can walk in with a beer in each hand, sit down, order some rice and beans or whatever, and sit there and chug a beer.
yeah, we had absolutely no issues with this one place, and it was this. I know the one place we went to that we did that. It was like amazing. They had like these like tortilla things, but they make their own, and it's like all these meats, and it's this like churro meat that's like a spicy sausage style thing, and it's like these huge ones. You eat one, and you're like super full, and it cost you $1.50 American. So
That's probably
That's
that's
like-
probably a lot of money over there too, though, eh? Or
yeah, the exchange rate's pretty like good. Like depending on where you go for food, especially if you have, like if you go to these places, I recommend you go with like a guide that actually knows it, because then you can go to the local food places that they know which is good, and you can just go like, especially the local ones where all the local people go, it's cheap. But the ones that are set up for tourists, they're a bit more
of
expensive.
course, I would be too. Like,
So
if
you
they-
got to go try to like get a good guide, know where you're going, and be like, "Oh, this place is awesome." And
Yeah,
then
see-
you just go there, and it's like fantastic food
So you-
for a good price.
Yeah. So you never like. You're always when you go to a place like that, you always make sure you're with a guide.
Oh, yeah.
Like you never go in and like just I'm gonna go to Nicaragua on my own and like just see what I can figure out.
Yeah, and you're gonna go to the wrong place and walk alone at night and get shot. No,
Is that, no, but is that a serious thing over there? 'Cause, like,
he talked to us about like a couple places, and like we went to a couple places, but there's one place that we went to where he literally was like, after like 8 o'clock, I don't want anyone walking back alone, or even with groups. I will literally like walk you guys back to the hotel, leave those people at the bar because they'll be safe at the bar, walk you guys back, walk back. And our guide was really great that way.
so like you were safe with him, but not alone. And like,
Well, he knew the areas and this and that.
he know what alleys not to go down and that kind of thing.
Well,
or?
I went to one place where he said like, "Oh, okay, this is like the unsafest city. You got to be careful, never, because they're not going to target you in a group, because
But if
you're going to fight
alone,
back."
Yeah.
And it was just like this or that, and it's like, especially at night, don't go out in a group. So we went to the bar, and then I was going to go back early, but no one else wanted to, so I stayed and I drank more and more.
So I
And
just
then
drank
the
more beer.
And then the next morning, it was like, "Oh, I'm out of money, but I need money to go to the next place and out of the country. So I'm going to go walk to the ATM." I got lost.
Oh no.
And I got lost hard. I was walking in some slum areas in Nicaragua, and I'm like, hands in my pocket, staring at everyone. Being like,
Which is like not what to do.
no, you have to try to be like, okay, I'm confident, I know what I'm doing this, and just like, and I found my way back, and then I found my way to the ATM. It took me like 20 minutes, half an hour, and then I went to the ATM and I put my card in, and it didn't work. And I was like, are you kidding me? I got lost
After
in the
all that.
entire city, and this is ridiculous. I'm never going to do that again. I'm never going to go out again on my own again. I'm never going to get lost. I'm going to be smart. Same thing happened again in Thailand. Got lost.
You just it's just referring to the fact that you just went this past in November.
Yeah.
And I guess I was like, oh, how'd you trip, man? Like, we haven't really talked about it, but I'll maybe ask about that in a minute. But have you ever had any has that been like the worst experience you've had as far as being in a foreign place and you're like, you get lost, or do you have anything worse like that happen? Or
That's basically the worst thing.
you just
because
got lost?
you don't know where you are. I had no idea where my hotel was. I didn't know the name of my hotel. And since then, I started carrying like the cards in my wallet and stuff like that.
So in case if you walk by someone who doesn't look like, maybe this person might help me, like just show them the card, be like,
yeah,
point which way.
You look for another tourist.
Yeah, well, that's gotta be like I wouldn't have the balls to do something like that. Like just go out on my own, like because I'd be like, yo, my ass is gonna get lost and my ass is gonna get like mugged or something. Like,
well, this was like more of a tourist city in Thailand, so I was like, oh, I'm fine, I'm this and that, and you're just like, the guides are always like, oh, well, we'll take you to like this place, and then just remember your way back. And then I started like that one time I got lost. I got really good at directions. But this time it's like, oh, we're gonna go this way. Oh, we're gonna go visit this place and this thing and this
so
and this.
They're changing,
and
you
keep going, changing directions and this and that, and you're like, okay. And I'm like, I sort of know my way back from here, but I was going in. I was looking for shot glasses for my brother for Christmas, and I'm like, oh, I know where one was where we passed. So I went back there, and people were heading back, and I'm like, oh, I'll be fine. I was not fine.
I'll be fine.
It took me. I think I was there lost for an hour and a half. And I didn't even find my way back to the hotel. I found my way back to my starting spot. And then some other people were shopping. And I'm like, hi. And they're like, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm lost. Do you know how to get back to the hotel? And they're like, you're not going anywhere. You look dehydrated. Because I had like no water on me. I haven't drinking for like an hour and a half in the hot sun. And they're just like, we're going to stop for food and this. So it's like.
That's good. At least you found some people.
Yeah, I know it's good. It's just like. Met a couple of German people, and it's just like, oh, I had it before. People like, oh, you meet people. So I was going to groups where you meet other people, and it's just like you hear all these things about this and that. I'm like, I love German people. They're so nice.
I was just about to say,
nice.
I was just about to say, man, I've never met a German person that wasn't like the nicest people in the world.
Yeah,
like just so chill.
Yeah,
and just down to help you out and they're so nice and everything.
Oh yeah, they're so nice. Like.
It was like they're so angry. I'm like, no, they're not.
They're the nicest people ever. Like, they're awesome.
So you've met some cool people in these groups and that kind of thing. But when just getting back to Central America for a minute, where else did you go in Central America when you went there?
So we started off in Guatemala. And these are all third world countries that I went to, except for like Costa Rica. So you go to Guatemala and you go, like we went to like a small town. Like I went to like small town after small town and small town, especially in Central America, which is nice. So you just all these small tourist towns.
Yeah.
But you always go to like try to go to the more local restaurants and try to see more of the local sites. That's why you get a local guide. So yeah.
So what like. So you went to. So run me through the Central America trip. So you started in Guatemala.
Yeah, and then we left to Honduras, and so we're taking it all on. We do most on buses, like private buses, but we've done a couple what they like to call chicken buses, and they call them chicken buses because basically they are school buses that they travel from city to city, and people carry everything on them. And then sometimes they're like cramped like 4 to seat in these school buses, and people like trying to sell you like little items walking down the street. People like have like bird cages with birds in them and all this stuff, and you're just like,
what is happening right now?
Your luggage goes on top and it's bouncing, and you're just like, my luggage is gonna fall off, and you're like squished, and you're just like. Our guide we only did that a couple times because we did it like one time, and our guide's like, do you want to go on the chicken bus, or do you guys all want to pay $10 extra and take a private air-conditioned thing? And I'm like,
I'll pay the full price right now for the bus, brother. Like, I'll pay everyone's fee.
Oh yeah, after one of those, it's like, yeah.
It'd be a cool experience to do it once or twice, but after that, I'd be like, nah.
He's just like, literally, he's like, well, everyone has to agree, and some people are like, I'm like, I'll pay for you if you say free. Just want to go on one of those again.
Yeah. But what were the buses like these private buses? I like the buses that like I'm used to seeing.
Yeah, they're like fans and stuff like that. They're this and that, and there was one that we did in Costa Rica that was like, well, Costa Rica is more first word anyways now, but it was like, because we went on, did whitewater rafting and did a lot of cool stuff like that in Costa Rica, and it's just like, oh, we got the nice private one and this and that, and just it was only 4 on a trip, and we went from one place to another place, and met up with our group the other place, because it was just, our tour guide was good at trying to figure stuff out so we could do it.
He was a good tour guide.
Yeah, and then it's just like, oh, your vehicle has Wi-Fi, and you're like, oh,
I have Wi-Fi.
and it's just like, you can't hog all the Wi-Fi, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then everyone falls asleep, and you're like, Netflix.
Netflix. And chill on my own.
Yeah.
So where else did you go in Central America?
So,
In Guatemala.
Honduras, Nicaragua, and
Yeah.
Costa Rica. So
And
only
Costa Rica.
Only those 4 countries.
So how was it like kind of ending off the trip in Costa Rica? How's
Oh,
Costa Rica?
well, Costa Rica was just like, first of all, you're used to paying like $2-3 for a meal, and all of a sudden everything goes way up in
Way
price.
up in yeah, because it's not a third world country. It's
No,
like
it's just like this and that, and it's like this and, but it's nice. I mean, one person's like, oh, we're gonna go. Someone's like had their birthday, and they're just like, oh, we need to celebrate your birthday here, like at this big place and that, and but. The great thing about when we did Group of 16 is you go in Group of 16, alcohol is so cheap, and they want you to stay there and have a great time.
So
they'll give like everyone, oh, just because on the house, everyone have a shot.
yeah.
And it's just like fantastic.
I would hear stories of like people who travel and stuff, and they would tell me about these bars. Now, I think it was mostly in Japan that I hear about these kind of bars. I think in Japan, but I swear I've heard about them in Costa Rica and places like that too. Is where you'll walk into this bar and there'll just be all these women who work there. They're not necessarily servers, but they're just like they just like hang out with you, and they're like these always like these beautiful women, and they're like, oh hey Brandon, like oh hi, like oh buy a drink, have some drinks, and like they're like giving you these drinks. And like they're like flirting with you and stuff, and like
No.
you never had that experience there, because the thing is with these places is I don't know if it's these bars, they hire these women and they basically will give you, and you're like, oh, like they're giving me free drinks, all these hot chicks, they're loving me, yeah, this is gonna be great. And then you get the bill. And they're like, oh, here is Bill. Like it's like what? And it's just, but you've never had experience with the bar like that, because that's gotta suck. That's gotta be rough. Like you think like, there's all these chicks like hitting on me.
We went to enough places where it's like first drinks like on us, and it's like not. It's like the cheap stuff, but it's like
But still, it's
we went to Now I'm thinking going back to Thailand, where it's like a line of bars, and each one has an offer. It's like first drink on us, and you literally like just be like, I'm stopping. I'm like, I'm only gonna have 2 drinks, so it's not a big deal. But I'm like, honestly, like if I had like 2-3 buddies that were all like as cheap as me, it's like we go to that bar, then we skip that one so they don't see us, and we go to the other one, get a free drink, go to the next one,
Go to the next one, get a free drink, go to the next one, go to the next one.
I had a couple people that did that. They're like, yeah, we're just gonna show up for the free drink, and it's like, oh,
Right on, man. After 6 or 7 bars,
Yeah.
you're probably like, I feel pretty good now.
didn't cost me a penny.
Didn't cost a cent. But do you have those people that like they always want to like go? They gotta go everywhere.
Oh.
They want to see everything. Oh, look at this little store. Let's go in here and see what they have.
Well, you go with a group, and you go with enough people that it's like
you don't
they're from
have
the-
to be with those people.
Yeah,
or whatever.
so-
yeah.
And you get some guides and tours and stuff like that too, where it's like, oh, we're gonna do this tour now or this tour, and you get like tour guides, and some like you get some that are good that know, okay, they're a little impatient, we'll go through, and you get some other ones that they're just sitting.
They're just hanging out. Like they're like, whatever, I'm getting paid. Like just hang out.
Yep, we're sitting there because now I'm going back to Honduras. We went to like one ruins, and it was really cool, and he was showing us this stuff, and then the guide we had was a teacher, so he was really good at telling us how to do stuff, like a formal teacher. And he's just like, he started giving us like this Mayan math lesson, and he's just like, oh, this is like this symbol, and this is this, and he's like trying to teach us like Mayan math, and we'll just like, I'm not in school right now.
Yeah, like we don't care about this. Like, see, I would find that fascinating because I love that kind of stuff.
It was fascinating, but after like the first like 7 minutes, you're like, really, we're still talking about this.
All right, guys, let's say hypothetically here for a second that you have a business. You're in a band, you're a podcaster like me, you have a YouTube show, and you need some awesome new merch, business cards, logos, even maybe some t-shirts done up. Well, you need to look no further than my man, Mr. Jason Reese, over at Jaybird Digital Arts. Jason is offering a special 10% off discount just for listeners of The Hodder Show when you mention The Hodder Show upon contacting him. But what exactly does he do? Well, Jason does t-shirts, posters, album design, tickets, photo manipulation. You guys still with me? Advertising, business stationery, mailers, brochures, fine art, and anything else you can imagine, Jaybird Digital Arts can create it. Jason has done all of the t-shirts, logos, banners, and all social media stuff for both The Hodder Show and for Hodder Guitar Services, so I can promise that you will love and be inspired by what Jason comes up with. You can contact him on the web at www.jaybird, that's Jaybird, digitalarts.com, or you can search for him on Facebook and Instagram under the Jaybird Digital Arts handle. Search hashtag Jaybird Digital Arts for a look at all of his awesome and unique work. So, going to these places with these tour guides and that, like, have you like seen some like in Central America? Like you saying, you saw some ruins and that. Is there anything else kind of cool that you saw when you were in Central America?
Well, I climbed up a volcano, and the
I
view
was going to ask about that.
That was fantastic, but the way we did the volcano though was just like it's supposed to be like a 10 all day thing. So you wake up I think I woke up like at 5 in the morning, 4:30 in the morning. You wake up, and that's when we had the homestay. So it's like this big breakfast, and I'm like, I feel guilty having them wake up and make me this nice breakfast, but I'm like,
I mean, hey, if they want to,
yeah, so
it's probably cool for them. Like, they're probably like not to be racist, but they're like, oh, like, look at these white people that come and they climb a volcano. What the hell's wrong with them? Like, let's feed them rice and beans and send them on their way. Like,
well, it's a good protein, man. It keeps you good, sure. Keeps you going, and it's like, so we went on this trail thing, and about like half my group went on it, and it was like, okay, it's like because we did group things and take options. You can do a volcano, or you can just sit around and see the nice view and drink all day. And I'm like,
both sound very. That's my problem though, man. Is like say you and I decide to go to friggin' this place, and you're like, yeah, I want to go climb the volcano. I'll be like, I'm gonna stay here and have some beers, and I'll take a picture for me.
That's the great thing though. Like, you can go on these groups with friends, and you can do that type of stuff. But we went on this thing, and first thing you're doing is you're walking through, and you're walking up the volcano. And the first thing, it's all jungle, and so we were walking up. And we had like a 30 person with us, and every time we got a good pace, and they were like a 35-year-old smoker. And I'm like, this volcano is 1.5 kilometers up high, and at some of the elevations, it was like 60%. Like, it's super steep. And so we're just, at the beginning, it's like, oh, it's like a regular one. It's a bit of a trail thing through the jungle. And then it was like every like 10 minutes, oh, I need a rest. And we're all like, are you serious? We've only been walking for 20.
You can rest if you want, but we're going to keep going.
20. So we had like 2 guides on us, which was really good because we ended up going farther later. But it was like, we did the jungle, and everyone's like, oh, man, that was so tough. And then you look at the elevation afterwards. So it got even steeper. We're not even halfway there, buddy. And there's no path. It's literally, you're walking. They didn't clear out a path on this mountain or anything. It's just complete rock surface. Oh, wow. And you're walking up, and you're just like, okay. I'm like, I got to do this. This was like one of the things that I chose this trip for, is I want to go up a volcano. And you're looking out, and like, we first came up, and it was cloudy as like, it was just super cloudy. You couldn't see anything, and you're like, you kidding me? Am I going to get up here and not see anything? And then it's like, literally, you're climbing up the steep thing, and everyone just shouted. I'm like, clouds are receding. Everyone whips out their phones and their cameras, and you're just like, try to take little pictures of like the little spaces, and it's just like, so I got some pictures where it's like cloud, and then it's like a tiny little space, and you see like the ground from like super high up. Wow. And it's just, they're really nice photos, but you're like, it's super windy, and you're like, I just have my phone camera with me because I didn't want anything more thing, because you fall, you break it. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Try, don't get your fingers in it. Like I go through my photos and I'm like, I gotta edit all these fingers out. And you just like
Crop the fingers out.
But it's just so thing, and it was so nice up there. And you went up to the thing, and at the end it was like, oh, we still got like you're climbing up, and it's like, oh, you like climb up for like 10-15 minutes, and he's like, oh yeah, we did like an extra like 50 meters, 100 meters, and you're like, we've been climbing for like 15-20 minutes, my legs are aching, and you say we only did 50 meters? What the
Yeah, it's like you're not even halfway there yet. So what would you have done? Like, so, well, like, what was it like? So you guys got to the top.
Oh yeah,
right?
we got up to the summit, and you couldn't see anything, and it's just because it was so foggy and stuff like that, and it's like this tiny little edge, and it's so windy, and it's like this, and like right underneath is like this was technically was still an active volcano, so it was still smoking, it was still this, and the top you could just smell the sulfur, and you just like it's windy, you're blowing, and you're like you're trying to take photos, but people are like, oh, gather around. I'm like, I don't want to gather around. Gust of wind hits me the wrong way. I'm gonna die in a volcano. I mean, that would be a cool way to die, but I don't want to die right now.
So okay, so I'm sitting at work, right? I'm hanging out, and say someone comes in. Hey, did you hear about Brandon? What happened? He fell in a volcano. I'd be like, yeah, okay, like, all right, like, what would your ass have done if you're at the top of the volcano with all these tourists and stuff, and all of a sudden it starts rumbling? What would you
Run!
just jump? Like,
Well, the worst part is you would die trying to run down that volcano because it's still the same elevation down. And believe it or not, like, all right, you're up the volcano. I'm pushing myself because I'm like, I gotta go up this volcano. I gotta do this. I am super tired. I'm like completely exhausted by the time I get up there. And it's like, oh, now we got to go down.
That's
and
it too. It's
like you're steep, and then it's hard to go down because you just when you're going up, you're just pushing yourself up. When you're going down, you have to make sure you don't slide or your thing.
Yeah, because then you'll just fall off a volcano.
Well, we had someone on our trip. What they ended up doing is they tripped and they slid, and it was a girl, and she ripped her pants completely. Like,
damn.
And I was behind her for a bit. I'm like, be a gentleman, eyes up top.
Be a gentleman, eyes up top.
Gotta be a thing because you're just like I got scrapes and this and that, but I mean, that wasn't my worst thing. I majorly got, where was this? I think it was in Honduras. I decided to go snorkeling. Not the smartest idea. Well, we went to the beach and they're like offering snorkels. They just have like people walking, be like, oh, you want to snorkel? Because like literally there's one place in Honduras you can go right off the reef. Like you swim like 3-4 minutes out, you got reefs, you got fish, you got everything and stuff like that too. And I went too, and I'm like, oh, I'll try. You can do the snorkel, you do the things. Apparently I suck at snorkeling. So I go in, and I'm there for like maybe a minute or something like that, and then I can't breathe anymore because I'm not doing it right, apparently. I got ice through my... I got water through my thing, so I see like some beautiful things, but every like minute I gotta like take a thing, like shake it out, put it back on, put the snorkel on, and I keep going.
Maybe it was defective.
And I keep going and I keep doing it, and then I'm like, oh, it wasn't bad. I mean, I saw a couple really cool fish in this, not as much as other people, and of course I ran into some reefs and I cut my leg a little bit.
God.
And then I come back and I'm like, go to the thing, and people are like, oh, you're a little red. And I'm like, oh. And I'm like, oh, let go of my arms. Okay, I can handle that. And then I go like this, and I'm like, I am bald. I have no hat. I didn't wear a bandana. I burnt my scalp completely, and it's just like... And then I end up putting a hat on for the rest of the day, and it was just like...
Oh, that
and the
hurts
worst
me.
part is later, is I realized I didn't also wear a T-shirt when I was snorkeling. So I burned my back, but I didn't burn it evenly because the water surface was sort of like in the little dent in your back, so it's bouncing off the light, so it's fine there. So I have like this weird checker pattern on my back, and it burned like that, and then it tanned like that. So I literally, like, I didn't burn the rest of my back or tanned it. So for like the next 3 months, if I ever had my shirt off, it was the weirdest thing ever. Because I have like a big, huge, like, dot, like the flag of opposite flag of Japan on me. It's just like
the opposite flag of Japan.
Yeah, it's like it's red on the outside, right in the middle. So it's just ridiculous.
But kind of moving on from Central America there, how was this last year when you went away in November there? I know you went to Thailand.
Yeah.
But where else did you go?
Vietnam, Thailand, and Laos.
That was it. Was Vietnam and Laos. I couldn't remember.
So I started off going to Vietnam, and that was fun because even you get there, first of all, it takes you, I think, 18 hours to get there. So my first flight was, no, it took me longer than 18 hours to get there. My first flight was 15 hours.
Oh my God, I would off myself having to stop playing for 15 hours.
I left at 2 in the morning. My flight left at 2 in the morning. I didn't nap any of that thing. I was nervous. This was like my longest thing. It was so thing. I was just one of those shaky things. Like, I'm always getting nervous before I fly, and I'm like, I go on the flight, I'm like, I didn't sleep. And on the plane, I didn't sleep at all either. Barely, like every hour or two. So you show up at the thing, and you show up, and it's like, by the time you get there, it's like, you show up like I leave at 2 in the morning. I get there, it's about 10 o'clock at night, our time, but it's 10 o'clock in the morning, their time, because it's 12 hours difference, and you're literally like,
you're exhausted, but
you're exhausted, you can't really sleep, you can't do anything, and it's just like, I'm in a completely different country, I don't know the language, I'm hungry, I got some food, but it's like, literally, it's like, I don't know what to do. Like, I walked to like the one convenience store, and I just like grabbed a whole bunch of snacks. I'm like, I don't feel like sitting at a restaurant by myself being like, so I've done that before, and you just like, you never know what you're gonna get because you don't know anything on the menu.
What is Vietnamese food like?
Well, it's pretty good. I mean, it's a lot of noodles and
yeah, that's what I figured. I can't remember what it's called, like Pengai Thai or something, or I don't know. I can't remember what it's called. 'Cause I know there's a place in Oshawa.
Pad Thai.
That's it, Pad Thai and that.
That's more in Thailand, but it's like all this other stuff too. And like it's really good food and it's really good soup, but it's like you really never know what's good and not. And I went on the plane too, and it was like, it's like the Asian, because it wasn't on an Asian airline, so it's like Western or Asian. I'm like, it's like we have like a traditional like Asian oatmeal, and I'm like, I'll give that a try. I'm like, I'm looking at it, I'm like, there's mushrooms in my oatmeal. What are you?
Why is there mushrooms in oatmeal?
And it's like this really weird sauce, and I'm like, I'm not gonna eat that. I'm like, if I go on planes, I'm eating Western. I mean, airplane food's not that good to begin with, but you're just like, are you kidding me?
It's either that or oatmeal with mushrooms in it. That's the most bizarre thing. But so, like, what kind of, you get like Western style snacks over there and stuff too? Or like Vietnamese snacks.
You can get Western stuff, this and that, and what I saw a lot was A&W root beer. So that's like A&W is a Canadian brand, right? And I was going, and I had an Australian roommate, and he looked at it, and he's just like, is this like salmonella or something like that? I'm like, no, that's root beer. And he's like, what's root beer? I'm like, I don't know, but it's Canadian apparently. So, just like,
what, you didn't know what root beer was?
No, he didn't know what root beer was.
Oh, I thought you meant you did, and I was like, what the hell?
No, I'm just like, it's made from like roots and stuff. It's like a
roots and beer.
It's like a pop that's made from like some roots and some other flavoring stuff. And he's like, I mean, he's like, it's good. He's like, I've never heard of A&W. I'm like, it's a Canadian brand. I'm like, what's a Canadian brand doing here? I'm like,
that's kind of bizarre. I had A&W root beer.
Yeah, you saw it everywhere, and it's in like these weird cans, and it has like the Thai language written on it too. So it's like they ship A&W root beer to those countries, and apparently, I guess it's popular enough.
Huh? I never knew that. Shout out to Vietnam for carrying A&W, and for I have had a couple listeners from Vietnam. So, so went to Vietnam. Anything cool happened when you were in Vietnam? Anything you want to talk about?
No, I mean it was. Well, we did one thing in Vietnam is we decided to play football or soccer, whatever you want to call it, against some of the locals, and that was fun. Like it was a bunch of. They were older locals. They were like 40, which was fine because it gave us a fair advantage. Because
ruthless, just gave us a fair advantage. They were all a bunch of old people. So.
Well, I mean, we had some people from England and Scotland and Germany. They all play football. I'm Canadian. We don't play football.
Yeah, we don't play football, or we play soccer,
and we don't play it well.
Yeah, we don't play. We're not very good soccer players.
No, here. But I was actually. Man, I never felt like I exercised more in my life, and we only paid for like 45 minutes. And it was like, literally like, because I'm like, oh, I'll just play D, and it's like not that big of a deal. Oh, it was a big deal.
Because they were like, Ruth, they're probably like, we got to kick these tourists' ass over here.
Oh, yeah, but you know what? If they're a little rough, so I grew up, it's like, oh, it's about sportsmanship and this and that. If you tackle someone to the ground, they're just like, good hustle.
Really?
And it's just like,
ruthless,
nice.
Right?
It's just
knock some kid over and go, sorry, buddy.
No, but you get this big thing and just like, I've done it a couple times where I just went and I'm just like, I feel like I'm playing like American football because I'm like body checking these guys trying to get these balls, and I'm like, I'm thinking people are gonna like do me a side bit. I'm like, it's the only way I can do it. And it's like literally like, good hustle, and they're just like, you're playing good. I'm like, I thought you didn't play football, and I'm like, I haven't since high school, but I haven't.
We didn't play it like this.
We had to be fair in manners.
Yeah, if you tackle a kid
after you, please take a shot.
Hey, take a shot, eh? You ever like mess with people when you go there? Like, oh yeah, I'm Canadian, eh? How's it going, eh? That's a back bacon, eh, bud? Like, you ever like mess with anyone over there?
A little bit, but it's not that big of a deal.
So when what was the coolest thing you saw when you were in Vietnam?
All we saw was these tunnels. There was these Vietnamese tunnels that they had during the Vietnam War. Mm-hmm. They all bombed them and stuff like that. And these tunnels are like super, super tight. Like, I don't know, like maybe the hole's like the size of like a small laptop or something like that. And serious? Like, well, they were, because the Vietnam people with, especially back there with the lack of nutrients and stuff like that, they did not go to be very tall. And they had all these huge tunnel systems underneath. And it was like, you did all these tunnels and stuff like that. And it was like these tiny little tunnels. And I tried fitting into like, just like the beginning of one, not even like the stretch underneath. And I went in and I'm like squeezing in, trying to get in. I'm like, I'm this and that. And it was just like, I'm like,
couldn't get in.
I tried to get, and I went in and I got out. And then I was like, oh man, that was tight. And some girl from another tour group came after me, and she got stuck. And we had to get like 2-3 people like lifting up her arms trying to get her out because it was just, they were so tight.
And you're pretty you're what 6 foot 5'11", something in that ballpark.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and you're pretty you're not scrawny, but like you're a skinny dude. So the fact that you got stuck.
Oh yeah, and it's just like you're doing it, and then afterwards they had like these tunnels too, where it's like, oh, you want to actually try some of these other ones. I'm like, if they're anything like that, and I'm like, oh no, we made them like 3-4 times the length, and I'm like, you walk in and you're like, the second you walk in, you're like, I'm so claustrophobic. I didn't even think I was claustrophobic. And it's just like, it's like, once you start, you can't stop for like 100 meters, and you're like this, and you're like crunched, and you're back, and you're like, my back's hurting, I gotta go. And it's like, you stop, it's like, do you want to keep going, or you want to stop at 100 meters? Because like, it's like 500 meters or something. Like you can do the whole tunnel or something like that. And everyone's like, up. And they're like, are you worse? I'm like, you kidding me? Like, how can you do that? It's just so.
And they were doing that, like, just running around into those tunnels and stuff during the war. Like, that's insane.
No, but the thing is, they were a lot smaller. Like, they're gone. Mm-hmm. And they had such a good tunnel system. Like, you could see, like, little fence and stuff like that, too, that they made out of, like, ant hills and stuff like that. And you could not, like, they're like, oh, that's, like, a ventilation shaft, and you're like looking at it super carefully, and you're like, you kidding me? Like, I still can't see it, and you're staring right at it. So That's why the Americans just decided to napalm everything and blow everything up.
God. That's why they just decided they said, yes, enough of these tunnels.
Well, that's the only way they caught it is they would follow people, see them go into the tunnels, they would mark it, and then they would just call in support and bomb them. And it's just like, you're looking and you're just like, oh, man.
That's absolutely insane to think that.
So glad I'm not American right now, because it's just one of those things that's like, oh, I'm so glad we weren't super involved in that war.
Yeah, is there like any like kind of talking about that in your tour group? Was there any like older Americans or anything, or like
no
people who like might kind of remember that?
I went on the one thing where the oldest thing was oldest my tour group could be was 40, so no one really remembered.
So okay, yeah.
So I did more of a younger tour group, and it was like our guide though was really he said he was a translator for the Americans, so he told us some good stories and stuff like that about like him translating and stuff like that, and because he was talking about like when they first discovered like the traps and stuff like that the Vietnamese people made out of all this
brutal traps and stuff.
Bamboo, they were trying to figure out what the poison was that they put on the traps, and they're just like, he asked the person and he translated, and the guy he looked and he laughed, and the Americans are like, what's the poison? And he's like, shit.
Yeah, it's not poison.
The poison's literally shit.
Yeah, they used to. Yeah, that's what they would rub on them.
Yeah, so it's like,
that's brutal. They put them on like the steaks, and that's getting off of that. So where else did you go when you were there? Like, I know you went to Thailand, obviously.
We did Laos.
And then Laos, that was it.
Laos was my favorite place there because literally we did Vietnam, and it was like city after city after city. We did a little bit of countryside, but it was mostly cities. And you went to Laos, and it's just like, it's the country. I live in the country. I love the country. Never going to move to the city.
Yeah.
Especially not one of those cities, and it's just like this or that. And it was just, you went there, it's beautiful, and it's just a calmer lifestyle too. And like, we had people that were like a lot more friendly. You go to like some of the markets in like Vietnam, and it's like, you like look at one item and they're pushing you. You go, I went to like a market too, and I'm literally in the booth like 2 feet from the guy, and I'm looking at stuff, and after like 4 minutes of looking at his booth, he just like, can I help you? And I'm like, I'm just looking. He's like, okay. And I'm like, oh, finally, like a nice polite guy.
Instead of like, no, you buy stuff. Like,
I'll give you a discount. I'll give you a discount.
I'll give you a discount, friend. Come on, friend. Help me out, friend. But what's the food situation like in Laos? Like, what are they? Kind of the same type of food, or?
Pretty much the same thing, but what Laos has is this thing called they call it like sticky rice.
Yeah.
And basically, they were being like, you can eat like a bowl of this and be fine because it just sticks to your esophagus. And I'm like, oh, so it's basically constipation in rice form. So.
Constipation. They couldn't call it that because, that's called constipation rice. Like, no one eat it. But sticky rice,
Well, that's what it is. It's like, it's supposed to be, just sticks to you, and it's just like, oh, okay.
Did you try some? Or?
I tried some. We had one person in New Zealand that they ate some of that, and they ate some other stuff, and they literally were like, oh, I feel like thing, and I'm like, what's wrong? They're like, I haven't shit in 3 days. And I'm like, that's brutal.
So it literally is constipation rice.
And they're just like, the monks eat it because it just keeps them full for a while. I'm like, that's because nothing can get.
Nothing comes out. It's just like, that's brutal.
So, I mean, you eat some of that, and you got to be careful. You got to eat some more Western food and this and that.
Yeah.
And
at least it's good that you can get some while you're there.
No, so you got this and that, and you got a lot of vegetables that you don't get here. We had a big joke, especially with this one Scottish person, about, ever heard of morning glory? It's a vegetable, but apparently it's also a vulgar term in Scotland, meaning...
You can say whatever it is, doesn't matter, but we haven't dropped any F-bombs or anything yet this show, so you can go all out here.
basically it's an erection in the morning. So
Okay. Well, yeah. I wasn't sure what.
so morning glory means erection in the morning, but it's also a vegetable. So every time people order, oh, I love morning glory, like
And
especially
he'd be like, "Oh, laddie, I love a morning." I can't do a Scottish accent. But he'd probably
he
love
just
that.
it was just hilarious because he got it and a couple of the English people got it, but I think it was like a Canadian that was saying it that had never heard the term before other than the vegetable.
If I had said, "Oh, like I'd love some morning glory," and they laughed, I'd be like, "Okay, yeah, I get it." But like, just, what is so funny about that? Like,
Oh, it's just one of those things.
that's brutal. I bet you traveling with the Scottish guy was funny.
Oh man, yeah, he was
He was
great.
something else. So then after that, you went to Thailand, and was that where you ended the trip off?
Yeah, we ended the trip in Thailand, so we did that, and we did. Well, the one thing that I liked about Ferry Laos is we did like a homestay in the middle of the thing. So we went on a boat on a river, and we traveled for about 10 hours to a small village in the middle of nowhere, which is like really interesting. But everyone's just like, oh man, I'm so glad I took my malaria pills and this and that. And I'm sitting there being like,
What?
that's literally what it was. Because I'm like, I'll be fine. We're just going to cities and stuff like that. And I forgot about the little homestay.
Yeah.
So I'm literally like bug spraying myself like every 2 hours. I'm like,
yeah.
I can't get sick. I can't get sick. I can't
Yeah,
get
you're
sick.
asking
I'm not going to
malaria.
get screwed. I'm not going to get screwed. I'm not going to get screwed. I mean, you have like you sleep in like these bud nets too. But I sprayed myself like before I went to bed. I woke up in the middle of the night. I'm like, where's my bug spray?
Oh god.
And
I just picture your ass. You just goes back to sleep.
basically, it's just like, I can't die.
I can't die. Again, I'm picturing like, myself at work and just like, sun comes down. Hey, did you hear about Brandon? Come on. Hey, he died in Laos from malaria. I'm like, oh.
Yeah,
like,
well, the one thing about Laos was we all were flipping out. We were looking at the sky, and there's this little black dot in the middle of the sky, and we're just like, what's that? And everyone's just like, I think it's moving. I think it's flying. And people are like, what is it? I'm like, it's a UFO. And they're like, what? I'm like, it's an unidentified flying object. It's a UFO. And people are like, it's aliens. It's aliens. I'm like, no, it's the Americans. It's always the Americans.
The Americans. So you legit saw something up in the sky?
Yeah, and it was like this black dot. People were like, it's a weather balloon. I'm like, it's too big to be a weather balloon. Why would they have a middle?
That's trip. Why would there be a weather balloon in the middle of Laos? It was in the middle of the day?
No, it's like right when the sun was setting and stuff like that, and you're just like,
right
what
when
is
they
it?
come out.
And like everybody saw it, and I'm like, we're trying to get photos, but the sun was too bright, and it's just like,
Of course.
just like.
Those UFOs are smart. They don't. They don't mess around.
They don't take good photos either. They don't
take good photos.
Stay where you're going. And it started moving like farther down. I'm like, oh, maybe it's following the sun, but it was falling faster than the sun. And we're like, well, it's not falling at the same thing as the gravity of the. And you're just like, oh,
Yeah, that's trippy. You ever had other experiences like that? In, like,
No,
these small
it's just
countries?
like
No, that's
just super weird. No,
that's bizarre. See, I'm a true believer, so like,
no, it was just weird. Like, it was just freaky.
that's very weird. But how was Thailand in general?
Oh, it was good. I mean, it started off being like, it just was weird when we went there, because we went on the boat and they had beers, and people like, oh, we got to get rid of our allowance money, and they had beers on the boat, and it's a 10-hour boat, and we were going at the way back, and people like, oh, I'm just gonna spend the rest of my money buy everyone a beer. Our beers are not the regular. They're not the regular $3.50. They're $7.10. Wow. And you drink. So I'm like, I'll buy a beer, drink one of those, and then it's like, oh, I'm like, I think I'm good. I think I had like 2 of those, and people are like, oh, I'm gonna buy everyone a beer. You want one? And I'm like, okay, I think we still got an hour left. And I had a beer, and we're drinking it, and it's literally like, oh, and then it's like, oh, we're getting off the boat in like 5 minutes. I'm like trying to chug this like.
And that was
750 beer, and then you're like sitting, because like they didn't care that we were drinking them in the vehicles either on the way to the border, which is just fantastic. Sometimes.
Which is just great.
So you're driving and you're drinking it, and you're like, and then you're like at the border, and it's like, oh, you got to enter like this and that, and most of these places like they're pretty fine with the border, like it's not like a
So they're not very strict.
Well, they're strict for this and that, and it's this. We had my roommate apparently you can only be in Thailand for like 15 days at a time. Your first trip ever is 30 days, and then it's 15 at a time. He started a trip in Thailand for like 2 days, and then he went out of the country. And then he was like going to spend 30 days there afterwards, and they were going to charge him like 10, 15 bucks American for every day. It was their extra. And he was just like, oh, that's going to be a lot of money.
That sucks.
And he was trying to figure it out and this and that, and it's just like, but I'm going and I'm like, oh man, I'm buzzed. And then we went to Thailand, and they drive on the wrong side of the road. So I went in the vehicle and he started driving, and I'm like, what's going on? We're gonna get hit. We're gonna get hit,
dude. We're gonna die.
We're gonna get hit. I'm like, it's just weird.
Look at this
it's just
stupid
weird,
American.
and like people are just like, people in New Zealand, like, they drive on the wrong side of the road. They drive on the right side of the road here, like, and I'm like, what? And they're just like, yeah, the right side of the road, and I'm just like, oh, well, okay.
Yeah, especially when you're a little buzzed, you're like, oh shit, we're gonna die.
And they're just like, yeah, now you know what we felt when we first came here, because they drive on the right side of the road too, and you're just like, oh, well.
That's got to be a trip. I would be freaking out the entire time if we were driving on the wrong side of the road.
Oh, well, you think that's weird? In Vietnam, what we did was I thought I was legit gonna die. We were on little, those bicycle carriage things.
Yeah.
We were on one of those things, and we're just driving the middle things. And especially in Vietnam, there is mopeds and motorbikes everywhere. It is 98% of the vehicles that are on the road. And we're going, and it's like this, and some places it's fine, but we went one where it's busy traffic, and you're like this and that.
You're zipping in and out in between cars and stuff.
Between motorbikes are just this and that, and they're so close to hitting you that it's just like, I'm gonna die.
You're sitting like, oh god. Yeah, that would trip me out. I wouldn't be able to do that.
I'm gonna die. And then even later on in Vietnam, we did a motorbike tour or two through one of the cities, and then you're literally on a motorbike, and it was just like, it was like a nice thrill and stuff like that too, but it's literally like you're in like the mix of like the huge traffic, and you're just like,
that's trippy.
I'm gonna die.
I'm going to die.
It's not even worse when you're on a bicycle and you're driving on a highway with mopeds. We did that as well. We did a bike tour, and it was fantastic. The one thing we did though is we went to a brewery that made rice wine.
Oh yeah.
And that is potent stuff, and it's cheap. Like literally, you can buy a liter.
Yeah, it'd be cheap to make probably.
It's super cheap to make. They showed us how to make it, and they said you can buy a liter for $1 American.
Wow.
And that's 45%.
How'd it taste though? Was it like?
Oh man, it's like the worst.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, you're not drinking. You're not going to be at a fancy restaurant. Yes, I'll have some rice wine, please. Like,
no, like you had.
This is to get drunk.
You had a couple restaurants, bars that had. It's like, oh, we make your own rice wine too, but it's more like a whole bunch of like young tourists that are like, I dare you to drink 2 shots of that.
Exactly. Yeah, they're like, I dare you to drink a glass of.
And then we had people that were daring each other to do it. And like, oh, you want another shot? You want another shot? And it's literally like, people had like 3 shots or something of this stuff, and we're going on a bicycle, and I'm like, you're drinking and driving, man.
You're drinking and driving, bro. Okay, so I got the meal for you right here. Then we're gonna start off with some sticky rice, and we're gonna have our rice wine with it. And what's like, what would you have for like dessert if I like that? Is something like dessert or anything? Like, 'cause I'm assuming the food's kind of all somewhat similar.
Well, actually,
Thailand I know would be a little different.
My favorite dessert there would have been their coconut ice cream.
Oh yeah.
So basically, you get ice cream, you squeeze the water out of it, or milk as they want to call it, like coconut milk.
Yeah.
And then they just turn it into ice cream.
Interesting.
It's really good because I'm lactose intolerant.
So
good. I ate that all the time, especially in Thailand.
Can you get that here? Like, is that even a thing? Or?
Probably couldn't.
Yeah, you would have special order.
You would have to get like the coconut milk and this and that, and by the time you get it, it's probably more expensive than regular ice cream.
Yeah. But how was like? Did you see anything kind of like crazy or weird in like Bangkok or anything? 'Cause I always hear stories about.
No, I mean, nothing like super weird. You got all these. Well, I'll just just call them what my guy calls them, lady boys.
Yeah.
Everywhere,
Lady
and it's
boys
just
and
like
that.
this and that, and just I had it before. Especially, this was before I went to Bangkok. We did like a Thai boxing match.
Oh, yeah,
and we
yeah.
saw one of those, and it was
Intense.
good. Oh, it was fun. It was good. I know they had like a little sideshow where they had they got 3 guys in, and they blindfolded them all, and then just started whirling each other, and it was just hilarious because they just had a good time with it. And one guy just closed his eyes and started spinning around and like trying to rail on people. And like he found a guy and started railing on the guy. And the guy's like, "I'm the ref. I'm the ref.
I'm the ref. Stop. You're disqualified." That's
Well, it was just a
insane.
fun thing, and it was hilarious. But it was just no. But we went to Bangkok. We saw some of those too, and it was just like we went to the one bar and stuff like that too. And like I didn't see like it was too weird in Bangkok. It was like
Not weird, but just like stuff that you're kind of like, oh, hello, like.
Well, the weirdest thing is ever is I went to the one bar, and I mean, it might have been my thing because I had 1 or 2 drinks, and I'm trying to go to the bathroom, and I'm going, and the bartender's just like, no. And I'm like, bathroom? He's like, no. And I'm like, well, it's like the bars in the back where they serve the booze and stuff like that, and he's just like shaking his head no. And I'm like, fine. And he turns around, and I'm like, I'm going to risk it. So I start moving, and then all of a sudden I get a yank, and he literally grabs me by the collar of my shirt and just yanks me back. And I'm just like, I'm just trying to go to the bathroom. He's like, no. And I'm like, fine, I'll go to the McDonald's. Like, I'll go to the McDonald's over the street, and like, oh, we don't have a washroom either. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, these places need washrooms. Like, I don't know what's going on here. But it's like, anyone want to go back?
Why didn't I have washrooms? That's bizarre.
They wouldn't let me go back to the thing. It's just like weird.
That's weird.
Of course, what I was drinking was they call them buckets, which is basically they give you a bucket with like ice, and you gotta be a little careful with the ice, but it's, you know which ice is good and which isn't.
Yeah.
And then just like it's Red Bull, and it's like vodka shots or something like that, and they put like 4 or 5 vodka shots in each bucket.
Jesus.
And they give you like a couple of straws to share and stuff like that too. But it's just like we were doing that one time, and they put a couple shots in, and the one person I was with, the Scottish guy, he's just like, one more.
One more, come on. Come on, laddie, bring it on.
And we've had that before too, where we've been to like restaurants before, and someone doesn't get the food, and like, oh, we're so sorry we didn't get free food. Is there anything that we can do? And she's just like, free shots for the table, and they literally give everyone a free shot for the table.
Well, right on.
So it's just like,
So it sounds like you've had some fun. What would you say has been your? I know there's a lot of places we didn't talk about. I'm sure you've gone to, but where would you say has been your favorite place that you've gone?
oh,
In total, like out of everywhere you've ever been, do you have a favorite place? Like a place you want to go back to just because you had so much fun there?
oh, this one island in Nicaragua.
Yeah.
It's just really nice. It's really cheap stuff. It's just fantastic, like really great view. That's where we went. The snorkeling and stuff, I'd be a little bit smarter this time.
Be a little bit smarter.
But it's just really nice there. And if I had the money, because you can buy like a condo there for like $60,000. So it's probably American, but still.
Be probably a little more here, but right on. We're kind of getting ready to wrap it up here. I appreciate you coming and
Yeah, no problem.
hanging out and talking about world traveling and that kind of thing. You mentioned earlier about going on a 15-hour flight.
Yeah.
And that was the longest flight you've been on?
Oh yeah, and
And-
that was brutal.
So do you like flying? Like, do you like kind of the hustle and bustle of airports and stuff like that? Because the reason I hate flying so much, the reason I think I don't like traveling so much is I like being at places and trying new culture and all this cool stuff, but it's the getting there. Like,
Oh, yeah.
for me to go into an airport is like, it's my least favorite thing in the world to do. I hate it. It's just so hustle and bustle and that. But what was like you ever had like a really, really bad experience flying in or anything?
Well, I think my worst. I mean, that trip I went on to, I was trying to take like gravel and stuff like that so I could sleep.
Yeah.
And I could not sleep at all. Like I took like an hour nap up, hour nap this. But no, I mean, it's not like the worst sleep I ever had, especially when I was traveling. Because I know when we went on these trips, we did a couple sleeper trains. And when I went on, they decided it is too dangerous to dim the lights at night. So the lights are fully bright on in the middle of the night, all night long. And you're just like, oh, that was on my trip to Bangkok. So I'm like, I'm going to stay up and have fun the last night. But it's like up all night because of the lights and stuff like that. It's just ridiculous. But, no, I mean...
You ever hit any, like, really bad turbulence where you just, like, dropped out of the air or anything?
Oh, no, nothing like that. I mean, the worst thing I ever had is when I, one time when I shaved my head completely bald, had a cup of tea, was wearing, like, a really thick coat, really thick boots, and was sweating, and I went up to security, and it's, like, my first time ever on a thing. They just were like...
What's up with this guy?
Yeah, they patted me down, they checked me... They checked me for explosive residue. Everything I could ever think of, they're just like
checking you
boots
for.
off, this off,
Yeah.
Fingers here, fingers there.
It's a sketchy looking dude here, man. He's got a big thick coat on.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was going to Thunder Bay then because I was living up there, and I came back for Christmas. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna cut my hair before I go, and apparently I had the wrong blade and it went completely bald, so it was like completely
you were like bald,
and it's just like people are just like
just sketchy looking brother over there.
Oh yeah,
we're gonna he's about to be randomly selected, put on the glove. That could have been worse, I guess.
Oh yeah.
But well, right on, man. Thank you very much for coming and hanging
no
out
problem.
and doing this. We may need to do something like this again, which was a lot of fun. Thank you for sharing some stories. Having any more kind of crazy stories that are maybe not PG that it's happened or anything?
Maybe.
Well, we'll maybe have to tell a story like that again at some point. But thanks so much again for coming on, man, and we'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
All right, guys, that was my conversation with my buddy, Mr. Brandon Vis, hearing all about his world travels. He had so much more stuff to talk about, guys. Like, it's not even funny. We talked after that for quite a bit, but I mean, he probably had another 3 hours worth of stories. So might have to have Brandon on the podcast again to talk about that. And I really would like to have him and another friend of mine that I work with on the podcast for a Mikes and Beers, because I think that would be just hilarious, because the three of us have gone a couple times going to do stuff, and it's always a riot. So I know the two of them would be great at it. I like having people on who someone like Brandon. He's not somebody who would normally do anything like that. You know, I said it before, and I've said it 100 times since then. This podcast is not for me to strictly talk with people and interview people who are either like YouTubers or podcasters or in bands or streamers or whatever. It's also to talk to people in my life that I think are either interesting or have interesting stories or I'm friends with that I want to have a chat with. It's everyday people, you know. Brandon's not a he's not a YouTuber or anything. He's not like a social media dude or anything like that. He's just normal, everyday, hardworking Joe, and that's not a bad thing. Let me just phrase that again. And I wanted to have him on, and it was a great podcast, and he had some awesome stories. So I really enjoyed it. I really hope you guys did as well. It was definitely something different. Let me know what you guys thought. Shoot me an email. Hit me up on the social medias. Of course, the Hodder Show, all the handles. Let me know what you guys thought of it. Let me know if you guys would like to hear more stuff like that. You know, I always want to. The Hodder Show is not limited strictly to one thing. I talk about lots of different stuff. I have lots of different kind of people on. Of course, I know I talk wrestling a lot. I talk music a lot. And gaming a lot, because that's kind of just my bread and butter, especially wrestling. But heading into the new year, obviously we're already there, but kind of heading into this new year and heading into the 100+ episodes of the Hodder Show, I want to continue growing this all together and continue to build this brand of the Hodder Show and so forth, and talk about different topics, you know. So if there's ever anything you want to talk about, even if you don't think it's all that interesting to everybody else, if you think I'd be interested in it, hit me up. Even if even if I just listen to you talk, that's what it is, man. This is a conversation between you and I, with some people listening in to be entertained or kill some time or whatever it is. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Seriously, I appreciate every single one of you clicking that play button. It means the entire world to me. Another virtual fist bump. Oh yeah. Whether how you're listening, if you are listening in on the SoundCloud, be sure to follow the Hodder Show on SoundCloud. Keep with everything that goes on, because everything that happens with the Hodder Show is basically ran through the SoundCloud. Leave a like and comment on these podcasts. Let me know what you thought of it. Let me know if there's anywhere cool you've been. If you are listening in on the YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the Hodder Show to keep up with everything that goes on the YouTube channel. I got a lot going on there now with the Hodder Plays stuff, of course, all the vlog stuff, all the updates. If you guys noticed, I also made playlists for all episodes of the Hodder Show. They're separated from episodes 1 through 50, and then 51 through 100. Obviously, episodes 97, 98, 99, and 100 aren't up there yet, but they will be once they're there. So if you want to listen to some of the past episodes of the Hodder Show and you don't want to listen to on the SoundCloud or an app or whatever, you can go on YouTube, and they're all there, man. They're all there. I think there might be one missing, actually. I can't remember what episode it was. I think it's episode 76, I want to say, is not on the YouTube for some reason. But you can catch that on everything else I have. So be sure to check that out, guys. Be sure to subscribe while you're there. Leave a like or dislike on this video. Comment and let me know where you've been and some cool stories and that kind of thing. And of course, if you are listening in on the iTunes, which you guys know is the easiest way to listen to the Hodder Show, be sure to subscribe and set it up for automatic download. Once you do that, you don't even have to think about it, guys. The Hodder Show will be automatically downloaded to the device of your choosing whenever it is uploaded. Who doesn't want that? You're busy. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's busy. Everyone's got stuff going on. There's so much going on in your life. You don't want to have to think about downloading the Hodder Show. You just want it instantly. When you're sitting there going, oh, I got to do this. I got to write this paper. I got to do my taxes. Or I got to go for a workout. I got to go drive to work. You don't want to have to search for stuff. I know I don't. I hate that. It's a pain in the ass. So once you do it, guys, you don't have to search for it. It's all right there for you. Of course, also, if you are on the iTunes, maybe give the Hodder Show a little rating. Really appreciate that. I discovered, actually, just something funny quick here. I discovered that there are certain reviews that don't show up because I have the Canadian iTunes. So the American iTunes and the other iTunes all around the world have different review systems. So I'm actually not at 10 reviews anymore, 5-star reviews anymore. I'm actually at 12, which is kind of cool. Shout out to those people. So that's very exciting. And of course, if you're listening on any other podcasting app, be sure to let me know what you're listening to on, so that I know what the Hodder Show is available on, and subscribe to the Hodder Show on there as well, and all the new episodes will be downloaded directly to the app for you. Like if you're listening on Castbox, guys, which is one of my favorite apps, literally you set it up for automatic download and it's done, and it will download when you're on Wi-Fi. Even if you're not on Wi-Fi, guys, literally some of these podcasting apps take up such little data. It's you won't even notice. I swear to you, I don't even notice anymore when that kind of stuff happens. But all that aside, guys, thank you so much again for tuning in, clicking that play button. You are seriously awesome. I hope you have an absolutely freaking amazing day. I hope you had an absolutely awesome week, and you have an awesome week next week. Be sure to keep an eye out on Monday for that episode 100 live cast event page that will be made up Monday, probably Monday morning.